So let's talk about dry brushing. It's probably the first painting technique that every painter learns, and it's also much maligned, I think, for that reason. However, dry brushing is still an excellent technique for applying paint to a textured surface. And if you think that dry brushing cannot be used to get really good results, well, let me try to school you a little bit here. We're going to be using our little flying pirate boat from Freebooter here as our example. And we're going to start off with our darkest shade color, which is Leather Brown. In case you're brand new and never even heard of dry brushing, well, quick lesson. You dab a little paint onto your brush, you scrub it back and forth on a paper or cloth towel, and to remove as much paint as you possibly can, and then proceed to brush on the model. And the paint's going to catch on all the raised areas on the surface and not go into the recesses. For our first dry brushing layer here, starting off with green brown, and two things. Notice that I am going against the grain because I want to leave the leather brown in the recesses. Also, the way my brush is moving, it's almost like scrubbing. I'm scrubbing the paint off of the brush and onto the model. We're going to dry brush our first highlight with Desert Yellow, again going against the grain, and just a little bit softer this time with our Desert Yellow. So I'm not really hard scrubbing at the model, a little bit of a lighter touch. It might be a little difficult to tell on camera, but I'm not putting as much pressure down as I'm rubbing the brush back and forth against our wood texture. Now, I've been going against the grain because I don't want to accidentally fill in the grain, but there's different ways you can do dry brushing. In this case, towards the top of the ship, I want a bit more of that desert yellow to show up. So I'm doing two things here. I am dry brushing very carefully. This time I'm going with the grain. If we do it carefully, we still won't fill in that wood texture. Second, I'm also doing some edging. So I'm trying to pick out the edges of our ship, mostly using the sides of the brush for the planks as we move down the side of the ship, using the tip of the brush to highlight the tops of all those planks. So we're doing a little bit of edging here and also a little bit of dry brushing, all in one step. Just because we are mainly dry brushing doesn't mean we can't add different techniques on top of that. In this case, I am applying Desert Yellow and Buff, and I'm trying to edge the model. I want the edges to stand out more. I want those to be crisper. Also trying to, once again, pick out the wood grain here and there on the planks and any of the larger texture on the planks. So on the edges, using the side of the brush to pick out the detail, and then wherever we need, using the tip of the brush wherever the side brush can't fit. And then finally, a little bit of a chipping effect using straight buff, almost kind of bouncing it along the edges, wherever I think there might be a little more wear to our little flying boat. And then we finish off with a little bit of shade. This is also very good if you were a little ham-fisted, got some paint into the recesses. You can apply a wash to bring those recesses back down to whatever color you need be. In this case, we're using black and brown ink. A little bit of glaze medium added to slow down the drying time, so I have a little bit more control and time to place it where I want it to go. Also trying to add a little bit more shade into the recessed areas of our boat. Also to note, this will be a good time if we wanted to add a little bit more color to our boat here, say some green for some bit of a water effect in the bottom of the boat or the recesses. Not doing it here because we do have a flying ship, but a glaze or two will add a little bit of color to your wood, and this is when you want to apply it. And there we go, that is it. Easy peasy. See how simple it is? And we got a really nice pirate boat. So that's it for our dry brushing tutorial, but do you want to see more? All right, let's work on the sail of this ship. I was going to do a tutorial on our little boat here, a full tutorial, but let's be honest, how many of you actually ever seen this model before? And it's long out of production. Also, I had some real problems trying to rig the sail, but in case you're interested, here it is. The miniature comes with a small paper sail that you can cut out and attach to the model, but I wanted something a little bit more durable, so I traced it out on very thin card instead. Also, I ended up making it a little bit smaller because I couldn't figure out exactly how to fit it. I went for realism with the sail, which was a mistake, and I'll explain why at the end here. Couldn't really paint it like linen because that's very boring, or canvas. I went with a bit more of a parchment look, so using the stippling method, starting off with, I think we could start off with khaki initially, and then stippled on beige and bone white, and then bone white mixed with white. Still not happy with just plain white sail, decided to add some stripes. And yes, I did do historical research on the age of pirates, and sometimes they did stripe the sails. And here is where I screwed up on this project. Yes, I did do research for a flying pirate rowboat. Don't know what I was thinking at the time, but I wanted a realistic sail rather than doing the pirate skull and crossbones on the sail, which would have been much more fitting for a flying rowboat, but this is what I ended up doing. Even after applying the stripes, still felt that something was missing on our little ship here, so decided to add a glaze of Cavalry Brown, just a little bit to the white to help kind of tone it down, give it a little bit more color, and move it away from the color, the same colors that I used on the, what we're going to call it, the tail and the wings, I guess. So there we go, there is our full pirate ship. Not a full tutorial, I'm sorry. Real problems trying to come up with a decent way to do the sail. May redo it in the future because I kind of have a better idea what I want now. Also, I was going to show you how I did the rigging. Could not for my life figure out how to do the rigging. First of all, this is not a proper setup for an actual sailing ship. Yes, I did do research on how to rig a real ship. Secondly, just trying to figure it out, I ended up using thread, which is the best thing I found to rig it, and it still looked very nasty, and it wasn't a tutorial, it was a disaster. But it is what it is, at least for the moment. Hope you were informed from the first part, and perhaps a little entertained by the second part. But if you did enjoy this either way, hope you give me a like, and be sure to subscribe, check out all those social media links down below, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Flag on the moon. How did it get there?